Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murderer. And today we are going to cover part 104 of Life Beyond the Grave, which is attached to the Vallow case. Now, remember, these people are supposed to be standing for God, right, and goodness. But the more that I have researched the demons and stuff, since they are the ones taking over people's bodies, they seem to have a lot of similarities to those demons. Here's the difference. Angels are about kindness and healing and loving one another. Demons represent evil things like murder, hate. And there's a demon that seems to represent Lori well, Astaroth. Astaroth hates God. He wants to bring forth the end days, just like Lori. End days to destroy every living creature, including angels, Nephilims, and demons. The goal is to turn them into nothingness. This means no heaven, no hell, no universe, no anything whatsoever. This demon represents destroying everything, including herself. But here's the problem. Astaroth cannot be destroyed or killed because he exists beyond concept of death and non-existence, making it impossible. Astaroth has some very impressive skills. Things like so important abilities to recognize are kind of similar to Lori Vallow, like the power to call on natural disasters, cursing people to induce horrifying effects. They can actually invade dreams, torture people, and psychologically torture people. The dreams can actually extend into the real world and actually impact people and their reality. And this is where you'll start hearing people complaining about being attacked in their dreams. So Serena's been talking to Chad Daybell about some of these dreams that she's had, seeking his knowledge, just to get his take on her dreams or ideas. Some of these dreams are attacks by Julie Rowe, according to this group. According to Melanie Gibbs, Serena reaching out to Chad about this stuff is getting on Lori's nerves. And we hear that Serena says that they give her all kinds of weird excuses as to why she can't be in this group any longer. Serena says she gets sick and she hardly ever gets sick. Now remember, this is about the time that COVID's spreading and we don't know it. But Chad and Lori convince her that she's being spiritually attacked by Julie. Lori tells Serena she's been breached and that she's being attacked while sleeping. So, unless you're a non-believer like myself, to a lot of people, Lori's quite gifted. Not only that, she's very, very manipulative. So she's very boldly manipulative, in my humble opinion. Such a bold woman isn't afraid to push her crazy beliefs or out there beliefs, however you want to, call it, onto these people simply because she's looking for someone that's on her level or above. This makes it easy for her to control them. And most of you don't understand how she's getting away with this, because if Lori walked up to you on the street, or most people, how far would she get with this nonsense? Probably not but a few seconds in. But this group, they believe that Chad and Lori, especially Chad, these people want to be part of something special. And they want to be in on the in crowd, the super spiritual group that is making, they're making some noise. And it seems that most of these people are selling their soul to be adored and loved as they've always dreamed of being. Shocking how many sold their soul. So while a few are checking out, like Serena, Nicole, you have a few others that are checking in, and they are becoming quite loyal followers of this couple, Lori and Chad, including Melanie Boudreau, who is Lori Vallow's niece. What I've noticed is a lot of people are trying to figure out if Melanie was actually controlled into going into this or threatened. And some are trying to figure out if she legitimately believed in this stuff and was a supporter. All I can tell you is I am not certain. But I am certain that she is one of the biggest liars and manipulators in this group. Melanie Boudreaux was living a great life before she started hanging out with Lori Vallow. She was married to Brandon, who loved her dearly. They had beautiful children, a beautiful family. But around this time, Melanie Boudreaux's just not happy. And she's wanting to hang out with her aunt Lori Vallow more often. And we're not certain as to why. And the thing is they are getting into these demons. These demons have become part of their lives, and it's a daily part of their lives. And I have found that the traits and the teachings, the belief systems, and how they were acting was so common and like many of these demons that are described online. And here is a description of Astaroth as a complete female. They say that she's one of the oldest demons, as well as one of the most powerful and respected. She is an early goddess among Sumerians. For them, she was known as the Queen of Heaven. Similar to Lori's claims, we are learning that Astaroth has been portrayed differently depending on the culture. But I found that description to be quite interesting, since we do hear the mention of Chad most likely being Satan. We'll talk about that later. So Astaroth, as a female, is supposed to be beautiful and elegant with fair skin and long blonde hair. She will only work for the greater good, and those who are not true followers or wish to use her powers to take unjustly from others will be denied her good grace. And so this is how Lori works as well. If you are not doing what she wants or believe as she wishes, you are shunned. So I just thought it was kind of odd that there was so much likeness between that demon and Lori. So let's continue to move on the timeline. Around this time in spring, Aubrey says that Chad asked her to be friends with Lori. She doesn't see her very often, talks to her on the phone, and she says it's around this time that she hears Lori mention the word zombie. We learned that Julie Rowe was not only being accused of attacking people in their dreams or sleep, but the church is also after her to excommunicate her. Julie says that she hears a voice that tells her to take down her podcast for a while, but she doesn't take them down for long. As for Kay and Larry, they are starting to be a little bit more concerned about Charles and Lori's relationship, and Larry Woodcock seems to be really concerned. He had told Charles numerous times and occasions that there was a situational awareness. You better find out what's going on. You need to be aware. Protect yourself. Larry admits that, this is something he and Charles were talking about during this time period. And so Charles was, having to worry for his life. In reality, this was not something he was like, well, maybe she's just saying this to be intimidating. That was not the case. So there was times that Charles would be crying over the phone, or he would have concerns for his safety or the children's safety. And then other times he didn't have or express huge concerns. Again, this must have been very hard on the Woodcocks. They probably had to keep their nose out of the business, only do what they're asked, but also have to sit back, keep their mouth shut, and watch as Charles is making a lot of mistakes. Serena will move to Rexburg. Let's make sure that I've mentioned that. I think I mentioned it before. And, well, Lori's going to be really unhappy about that. Around the spring of 2019, Lori is self-prophesizing. She's also given more testimony. And at this point, any decision that she makes in her life is because her Heavenly Father tells her to do whatever that is. We learned that Alex Cox, around this time, he's kind of dabbling in the ideas that Lori Vallow is kind of pushing on him or insisting that he follow. And we want to to know a little bit more about Alex. Though Alex was kind of a big mouth, we learned, through word of mouth, things that he said to other people, or when they meet him, how they thought of him. He is kind of a funny guy, but according to Colby Ryan, he was a weirdo. But did Alex Cox have friends? He did have friends, and every friend did state that they heard Alex Cox mention either a gun, using a gun, seeking a gun, possibly to hurt someone. But they say they don't really take him all that seriously. Around April 1st, Lori lands in Hawaii with her brother Alex Cox. We learned that, but we don't hear a whole lot on what happened when Alex was there. We do know that April Raymond said that Alex spoke of, the fact that they did try to take the life of Joseph Ryan. If you had friends sitting beside you talking like this, how would you handle it? Would you continue to be friends with them? This is something I ask myself with everybody involved with this case. I think if I heard someone talking like that, whether I had the guts to cut them off or not, at least when they left that time, I would never answer my phone again. But that's not what a lot of these people do. So after Charles and Lori are supposed to get back together, Lori is in no hurry at all. In fact, Brandon Boudreaux will testify in court in 2023 that Charles would come over with JJ, but they didn't see Lori. And we actually have a few people that come forward and shared some information about Chad and his belief in demons. So it's a really small clip, but I wanted to share it. It come from True Hidden Crime. Make sure that you can go to that YouTube channel and you can check out the entire interview. So it's with Heather Daybell. That's Chad Daybell's sister-in-law.
So there are a couple things that were important to me. So after Chad and Tammy move, I don't know exactly when this was, but it's when Chad and Julie are tight. She's here. So there was this big meeting they did at the Tabernacle in Rexburg.
We have heard about this, the infamous Tabernacle.
We had people we knew well attend that. And Matt said, should we go just to see what this is? And I said, I'm not stuck in that building. I've heard numbers like 2,000. It was at capacity in that building.
So this.
What year was that again?
It had to be shortly after they moved there.
Right.
And that was summer of 2015. So it was either the end of 2015 or maybe into the beginning of 2016.
It was one of the first, not the first, but it was one of the first preparing a people event, and the first one held in Rexburg.
That wasn't even preparing a people. That was before preparing a people.
Oh, this was before preparing a people.
This is when it's just him and Julie Rowe conquering the world.
Okay.
So
Heather Daybell says that he starts to talk about his near-death experiences, and she watches this over the next few years, and during this time morph into something much, much more than what it was. Now, here's where she talks about the demons.
Because one story he did tell us that I thought was weird is that they bought some trailer home, pretty early on in their marriage, that they were going to bed one night and Chad could hear demons outside his window and said to Tammy, oh, I didn't dedicate this house. We haven't done that yet. So he dedicated the house with his priesthood and the demons were gone. That's a story I was told long ago.
So that would have been...
I was married to Matt.
90s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, and I may get Christina and Serena mixed up from time to time. Just look past it. We know that Christina Atwood, she is cut from this group. Lori seems to be very jealous of several of these women, and it would be Christina, Serena, and Nicole. I think I said it was Serena that was talking to Chad too much. Well, she was talking to Chad, but also Christina was really reaching out to Chad. So let me fix that now. Now, while Charles is starting to kind of calm down a little bit in this time, he's preparing, to have his family come to Texas, where he believes this might give him a fresh start. But that's not enough. Charles believes that One of Lori's main problems is the temple. She's just spending way too much time at the temple, and he's been spending a lot of time with a lot of the leaders of the ward trying to get the temple recommend taken away. It seems, and I cannot speak for Charles, that he believes that if he has this temple recommend taken away from Lori, that maybe this will help her snap out of this, crazy nonsense. So when Charles is not in Lori's loop, he's contacting the family and he's asking them to help. And Zach says none of the family would help Charles. But now that Lori's speaking to Charles, she's not talking to her brother Adam. She's not talking to her nephew much. She's just her own family. She's beginning to cut them off one by one because they would not believe that she was a goddess, a translated being, and meant to lead the 144,000. They have become her arch enemy. I really don't think her family realized how easy it was for her to turn that switch and switch them off. I really don't think they realized how close of a call they had with Lori. It seems at this point, Lori Vallow is willing to sacrifice anything and everything for this mission. Now, mind you, Adam Cox is trying to be supportive of Charles when he can, but he must also keep his limits because his family's getting mad at him. But most people who know Charles, including, Charles' good friend that he often rents from, know that Charles is saying that his wife had dramatically changed, which in some ways she did, but in others she didn't. He just was able to keep her calm for a while. Here's some interesting words. And this comes from NBC Dateline. The last 6 months, Charles says she changes. Quote, "It's the freakiest thing I've ever experienced. She's with a group of people called Woke and Preparing a People. She says an evil spirit named Nick Snyder murdered me and is using me to violate her." So this evil spirit murdered her husband Charles, the true spirit, taking over Charles' body, and is violating her because she will mention that she sleeps with him 3 times when she knows that he's a demon. And now her daughter is dark, and it's possible that she has been possessed since she was 13 years old. This is way, way, way before Chad Daybell or Preparing a People, any of these people. Her dark daughter. This is a reality that seems to come to her over a slow amount of time. So it took a while. Once she come to that understanding about her daughter, Chad Daybell was quite supportive with this. But we know Melanie, Zulema, all these people are doing castings with Lori. But they are none of them, and I mean this, they are doing what they can to avoid Tylee, as if Lori never talks about Tylee. Not very much. And we know that's not true. Melanie Gibb, Zulema, especially, know more about Tylee than they're sharing. We know because whatever Lori's into, she gets obsessed about. And when you're obsessive, like Lori, this is something she talks about, thinks about, she eats, sleeps, round the clock. So something Lori's very interested in, as I mentioned, previous videos, is building cities of light. This is one of their goals. This is something they feel is a calling. So she's still living this lifestyle, but trying to tame it down with Charles. So we don't know what she's telling Charles, but it must be something because he's starting to settle down a little bit. He believes that love is winning. This is what he said himself. And he has written Taylor Larson, "Hey guys, I thought I owed you this much at least. I'm now in Houston in our new house. I say our because Lori is coming after she finishes packing in Arizona. Lots of forgiveness, more misunderstandings. As I told Taylor, love always wins. Thank you." So don't forget about this. I might mention this a few more times. Now, while Lori is starting to kind of turn against Julie, the church is attacking Julie, I believe that she's still following some of Julie's teachings. And I'll share some of those as we move forward in this timeline. Julie Rowe's teachings, they're out there. They're not really like anything you really seen before. She's actually combining energy healing with her doctrines at the LDS and even outside doctrines and canon, and just kind of mixing this into something she wants it to be. There are really a lot of members of the Mormon church who are not happy about what Julie's doing, and they're wondering why the church hasn't done anything earlier. Well, for me, I'm wondering, why are they doing it now? One thing's for certain is Lori's goal is to become a god or goddess. Now, Melanie Gibb tries to, keep her distance from Chad Daybell, but we really don't believe that she's as distant from Chad Daybell as she's leading people to believe. She also seems to help Chad Daybell push his books quite often. And several of these people, like Serena, say that, she's having visions and dreams herself. And she has concerns about this group that she's a part of. And she calls Chad to talk to him about these things. One of the main concerns is the teachings about zombies, something Lori is really pushing. Even more concerning, what about the fact that Lori says that there's no need for you to repent? The fact that they're saying that, it must be in April of 2019 that Lori is finally fully translated. Possibly even Chad. They have so many concerns about Serena at this point that she has been breached by darker spirits. Many of them being Julie Rowe, Chad once good buddy, and one of his closest friends. This is just so hard to believe that suddenly this woman walked into Chad's life and he just drops everything he knew. They're teaching that people like Julie Rowe, they're doing things that are like ritualistic abuse. Basically, they're kind of breaching her mind and twisting her true thoughts, and they're making her think the way that they want her to. So the fact that she's coming in there and questioning them is not her, but the fact that, her mind's being taken over by dark spirits. Again, this is a control thing by Lori and Chad. And what she's about to learn is, if you do not agree with Lori, you're going to become dark or a zombie yourself. And what does this mean? Well, we're about to learn that this is more serious than just having a problem with your soul being taken over. So who's assigned to take care of this problem with Serena, or when other girls kind of don't fit where they want them to fit? Selima. Now, considering what they asked Alex Cox to do, what are they asking Selima to do? This is something the investigators should be looking into. While Chad and Lori are, doing these intimate acts, they're getting married at the temple. They're using wild ideas or stories in order to determine that these are correct and okay. They've spoken with God and his angels, and they tell them this is what they want them to do. And if God says it, then it is right. And I know, guys, I've mentioned the fact that Charles was supposed to die in a car wreck, and I probably didn't put it in the right part of the timeline. And I wanted to mention it because I wasn't sure where I had put it. But it's around this time that Lori is thinking that Charles will die in another car accident with JJ. So Charles is supposed to die according to the vision she had of him dying. And she was greatly disappointed when he didn't. Just a few weeks ago, she was trying to get his life insurance policy changed into her, as her being the main beneficiary for the $1 million. So the fact that they say this, it makes you wonder, was there another plan here that might have failed? It's a very interesting thought. Now, something else that'll start happening as we approach summer is you'll start seeing these couples, especially like Melanie Gibb. You got Chad and Lori, Melanie Boudreau, Selima and Alex Cox. All these couples are going to kind of start switching, divorcing, dating, having affairs. And why now? And I started looking up, is there, something out there that they're following that might be encouraging this, like May Day, for instance, which is a halfway point between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. It was the time for pairing up young couples, although it was not yet for their wedding. So here I am looking up these kinds of things and trying to figure out, what are these guys going by? So what we're hearing is Serena's kicked out of the group, right? And Christina and Nicole, according to Melanie Gibb anyway, they quit the group. In a later interview, Melanie Gibb acts like this was a smart thing for them to do. But I promise you this, that during this time that it's happening, Melanie Gibb, Selima, and Lori, they were all over these girls. Something that Melanie Gibb seems to realize, the reason why Serena is actually kicked out is because she's just asking too many questions that made sense. And also, she was getting too close to Chad. So which is it? It's probably all the above, because she was kicked out because Lori was jealous she was talking to Chad. Serena later says that she was kicked out because she started asking questions about the zombie thing, which also makes sense because Serena explains that she's a researcher, and when she researches, she likes to research deep. So though she is kind of open-minded, she's also going to do her homework. Another problem is Lori is talking about who is light, who is dark, and starts talking more about their life probations. And it's around this same time that Julie's warning people that there's people out there, telling people, who they were in past lives, and that you shouldn't trust that. So a lot of times they're sitting there preaching, beware of the dark side. They're going to pose as the light. You've got to watch out for them. And here they are. They're the ones preaching it. Now, it's not just coming from Lori. Serena admits that she knew that some of this stuff was coming from Chad. And so this is why that gave her the excuse to call Chad. But for Lori, this must look like she's actually questioning Lori's, authority, her teachings, her ideas, and probably did get her steaming. There seems to be a load of drama going around this group as well. And I don't think Julie Rowe even realizes how bad it is for her, and she's not even in the group. Julie Rowe is now, like Serena, dark. She has dark spirits surrounding her, and these ladies are using their dark skills against this group. And here's a reminder of what Melanie Gibbs said about this stuff.
Question. I remember it triggered something like, we need to ask permission for something. Anyway, sorry, it's been too long. And it was weird that something happened that night that was strange. Sulema and was it Serena? It's almost like they got attacked by an evil spirit. Like all of a sudden, Sulema's sitting there talking, and all of a sudden she can't breathe. Like she's like, I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm like, what is that about? And then Serena, it seemed like something happened to her where something happened to her. And Nicole, or maybe it was Nicole. I know Nicole had something with me. Nicole's a sweet, gentle soul. If you ever met her. And she just all of a sudden got really depressed and really heavy and quiet. So anyway, they were obviously opening darkness because anyway. So they would say, well, anytime darkness comes after you, it's because you're doing the right thing. So it's an oppositional idea, right? And so anyway, they would just basically, she would raise her arm for the square, Lori would, and then she would say through her priesthood power, which she believed she had the patriarchal power, which was higher than the Melchizedek power, okay? Sorry if this is confusing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm following. She's following you.
I have to be patient. And Chad would help groom her into these beliefs and ideas. He would help her believe more and more, like, you're the most powerful woman in the world. And so